So last week, let's get my little clicker, we began a new series based on living in the great fullness of life. And how do we live with the great fullness, with a grateful heart, in the midst of all the human messiness and all the beauty and the gifts, like all of it? And so this morning we are going to continue that series, but I'd like to start us off with a video from Grateful Voices, which is part of something that the Grateful Network for Living puts out, and his name is Noah. So I'd like to start us off with that.
I would describe gratefulness as my ability to return to the moment and actually see something new is possible in that moment. So it's a way to return to my breath, remember I'm alive, that it's a gift to be alive in any given moment, and to kind of get refocused with whatever's happening. How do you be grateful for the gratefulness of everything that's happening in life, especially when my attention and our attention can be on so many things happening that just don't seem right? I was about 25 at the time. I was living in San Francisco, and I had moved there on a one-way ticket. I had a dream of being in the Bay Area since I was in high school. And walking through my neighborhood one night, I was just getting towards my house, just about to get out of the car, and I was held up at gunpoint. So what happened after the trauma of being mugged was I never felt safe in my neighborhood after that. I was always afraid that something bad was going to happen. And I knew deep down, on a spiritual and visceral physical level, I needed to get out of there somehow. So I actually had what some people would call as a manic episode, and what I would call a spiritual awakening that caused me to have to leave, to go back to the East Coast, get treatment, get both medical care and spiritual care. And so that was something that happened to me, and I do believe that my body and my mind responded in a way to get me out of an environment that didn't feel safe. At the same time, my whole system kind of woke up to something, and what I was waking up to, what I was beginning to wake up to, was being a gay man. Being my full, loving, happy, boisterous, joyful self at the same time as dealing with the whole stigma that society has on what it means to be gay in the world. I learn from the gratefulness of life, including the things that I don't feel grateful for and the things that I do feel grateful for, by really paying attention to the whole range of emotions. It's the whole range, and being able to come to that range of experience and that range of emotions, letting go of the judgment of what's good and bad. That's really important way for me to enter the gratefulness of life.
So Noah shares some great inspiration in his own story of going deeper, that spiritual awakening that occurred for him in the messiness of his life. And one of the things that he posed to us in this video was this question: how do you be grateful for the great fullness of everything that is happening in life, especially when my attention and our attention can be on so many things happening that just don't seem right? How do we live with a grateful heart when there are so many things to us that personally and collectively that just don't seem right? like the mass shooting in Maine that just occurred, with so many innocent people losing their lives. The warring that is going on all around the world, and in particular right now, in the face of so many Jews and Palestinians being killed. How do we live from the gratefulness centered in that in our heart when perhaps our spouse is struggling with an alcohol addiction? Or our brother treats us with such disdain? Or perhaps you yourself is struggling with pain so intense in your body, day in and day out. Or perhaps you are suffering from insomnia, having sleepless nights and waking up so exhausted every day. How do we live from the gratefulness and have that be full in our heart and in our awareness? If you find that to be a struggle at times in your life, say me too, or put it in the chat, me too. Yeah. So when we are living in a world where one of our experiences is the human condition and there is suffering, right? When we are centered and living from our human consciousness or the egoic mind, and there's a lot of beauty in the ego. I know it gets a bad rap, but it's for our survival. It has the executive functioning, how we navigate through the world. But part of the egoic mind and our human consciousness has stored within it all the times it wasn't okay and trying to protect us. And it puts things in categories as good or bad. There's no beauty. Like Gwen shares the story, and from that story she was able to reach into something deeper, her divinity, that which is greater than all of us, right? The allness and fullness of God, which is the mysterious substance of life itself, to tap into something greater. So we cannot access that from our human intellectual mind. Gratefulness, forgiveness, and deep, pure, unconditional love are mystical acts that can only happen when we surrender to the depths of our wise soul, our Buddha nature, our Christ nature, the I am of the I am, that is tapped in, tuned in to that which is the fullness of God. And in order to do that, it requires us to be spiritually disciplined and devoted in our lives to those practices, right? If we want to learn how to play the piano, if we're not a virtuoso, it's probably going to require us to practice, right? If we want to learn a foreign language, it's probably going to require practice, and not something we do once in a while. Well, so is the case with our spiritual practices. Hence the word practice. It requires us to be devoted and to awaken. Last week I shared the story about Christy Nelson. When she was 33 years old, she had been given a cancer diagnosis. She was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it was, to her, fatal. When she asked the doctor, after treatment, am I out of the woods? And he's like, I don't think you're gonna ever be out of the woods. And so from that place, after she was in remission and recovery, and through that journey, she went deeper to commune with the wisdom of her soul, which was connected to the fullness and allness of the divine itself. And she said she had this super soak experience of gratitude, that just waking up in the morning, she was grateful Just feeling her skin on her face, she felt gratitude. Everything was alive. It was easy to live with joy and gratitude. It came second nature. It was just what she lived, breathed, and had her being in. And then, years later, as she was experiencing an incredible healing, she said, I got back to life, the busyness of life, the roteness, setting goals, retail, therapy, such so on and so on. And that super soak then suddenly became, I'm taking life for granted. And so she was dismayed. And so she said, no, I remember the beauty of waking up or living from that place in my heart and soul. And I want to live from that place, not just when things are happening that I am joyful for, but for the many blessings that they're, the simple things that she just used to be able to be in the presence of. And so she went on a spiritual quest, and she discovered teachings, the teachings of Father David Steindl-Rast. And he taught about living in the great fullness of life. And he founded a network for grateful living. And so she sought him out, and she sought out the network, and she began living into his teachings, which she wound up compiling into the book, Wake Up Grateful. So 5 of the guiding principles of grateful living are as follows. Life is a gift. Everything is surprise. Ordinary is extraordinary. Appreciation is generative. And love is transformative. And so we're going to start with the first one this morning, called Life is a Gift. And so in that story that Noah shared, he stated, I would describe gratefulness as my ability to return to the moment and actually see something new is possible in that moment, other than this is not the way it should be. So it's a way to return to my breath. Remember, I am alive, that it's a gift to be alive in any given moment and to kind of get refocused with whatever is happening. So I think A Course in Miracles says, choose again, choose again. And that's why mindfulness and being awake is so important, is being aware, am I allowing myself to live from my conditioned humanity that cannot have the capacity, that resists everything, wants to control things? Or do I have the capacity to now say, oop, here I am in resistance. Here I am in trying to control. Here I am not able to see any beauty in this moment or goodness in this moment. Let me return to my breath and with just the mantra, life is a gift. Life itself is a gift. And guess what? When we're in a really funky place, or whatever you want to call it, where the monkey mind is going like crazy, you're going to hear, no, it's not. No, it's not. And it may even present all the ways that it's not. But we faith it until we make it, right? It is a practice. We may not get there the first time we play the song all the way through and sound like Beethoven, but we practice life. We start with that intention from the sincerity of our hearts. So what does it mean to live life as it is a gift? It is that first invitation to return to the moment. Am I noticing in this moment more than what I am not wanting and liking? Am I noticing that life itself is a gift? to refocus, to reframe, to just be willing to take that breath. And notice what we are receiving without even having to do anything, right? Some of you coming in today, possibly, I don't know that food's your thing, but there is some bounty of food out there that maybe some of you didn't have to do anything to do to enjoy, right? Being greeted with a smile, going out and hearing a bird chirp. You didn't have to do anything, right? If we just take the time to notice. So Christy Neff shares this. When we think of life as a gift, we can fully trust that as long as we are breathing, we are receiving. Turning into the miracle of our breath and bodies at any moment is a baseline reminder, right? We're always told, no matter what faith tradition, spiritual path, notice the breath. Go back to the breath. We wake up to notice the additional gifts and opportunities available to us in each moment, moment by moment, in the uneventful moments, and we can enter the awakened state at any time. No matter how we might be struggling, there are always ways to focus our attention on what we are receiving and what is working in service in our lives. It is often a matter of intentionality, shifting our attention away from the pull of what is missing to notice more fully all that is present. All that is present. And so she shares 4 devotional practices that you, if you so choose to take on the mission, that will support you in living life as a gift, something that you can return to when you think that things are just not like they should be, or when you are resisting, so on and so on. And so these 4 devotional life is a gift practices are: wake up grateful, inside out, outside in, and insightful. So some of these you may have heard of before, but I find it's always a good time to review because the tick-tock of daily life can sometimes make us so busy that we seem to forget. And so let's start up with wake up grateful. And what that is this, that when we arise and as soon as our eyes open, before we do anything else, is to pick 3 things that we are grateful for. Oh my gosh, my dog is just climbing on my chest to lick my face. How precious. Touching your skin, as Christy Nelson talks about. Oh my gosh, I have a bed to sleep in. They don't have to be anything grandiose, but the simple things that we may forget. The people who are kind in our lives. And then we move to inside out. And this is something that you're asked to practice throughout the day. Maybe you could set a timer on your smartphone or whatever. And this is where you tune inside. You notice the sound or the pulse of your heart beating, and you just simply say, thank you. You notice the breath and simply say, thank you. Take a pause and say, oh my gosh, the miracle of my body is doing so much to support me the best way it knows how. And to live in that place of pausing throughout the day. What else within your very being? What are you noticing? Just the stillness of that moment. And then outside in. It's taking throughout the day, again, maybe following that inside out, you do the outside in. And you notice, what are things around me right now that I can be thankful for? Do I ever think about the electricity? Do I think of who is growing the coffee beans or the tea that I drink? and all that went into me having that cup of coffee or tea in the morning. So many different things. Or when you're outside, noticing a bird, the trees, instead of hurrying to the very next thing that you are, gotta get to, don't have time for. And then insightful. That is just another way of taking time to be in the stillness daily, whether it's once, a couple minutes, twice, you get to choose. And in that stillness, you are savoring all the ways that Spirit, the divine, speaks to you through the gut instinct, through heartwarming knowing, through sensations in your body. A random song that goes on when you're in the middle of a prayer. I'll never forget when I was in graduate school. I was a single mother raising two boys at the time. They were like 6 or 7 years old. And I was rushing them out to get them ready for school so I could go to work. I was teaching. And they were just being 7-year-old boys who didn't want to get dressed, who didn't want to go to school. And so I found myself being short-fused and tired because I was also, going graduate school. So I lost my fuse with them. And on my way to work, I was just like, oh my gosh, I surrender. I apologize. And the tears were just flowing down my face. And I was praying. And then all of a sudden on the radio, I hear True Colors. Hey, you with the sad eyes. And then I started crying more, but it was crying more because it was like in that moment, I had a personal moment of Spirit. My own personal, there is something deep in me that, beyond the cranky mother who's tired. There is something greater than me. I don't know what it is, but there's something greater. And it's singing to me right now. Then we take a pause, and then moving from regretfulness and remorse, I was filled with a grateful heart. So my friends, as we come to a close, again, maybe some of these may be familiar to you. Maybe you don't wake up to this. I also wanted to share waking up grateful is, some people like to know what's going on in the world, and it can also be our prayer list. God only knows, that is true. But there's also networks out there who share positive news stories. The network of positive news, the uplift. So maybe while you're having your coffee, you can look at, just put in the Google, good news stories, and you will find the sites. And maybe you could read one or two of those, because I remember Ellen Davenport in her book, The 5 Principles of Unity. She used to be a reporter, and she used to say things that were out of the ordinary were the things that became news. So if the war is maybe out of the ordinary when we're, constantly bombarded with the stories, right? And maybe we can know that there is goodness going on, and that the world is just not going to hell in a handbag. And that maybe there are more people other than the people of Unity Shore who are thinking like, how do we live in the gratefulness of life? How do I be it in spite of what I am seeing, in spite of what I am living in my life? And I am not saying it is easy, but I know it is a choice, and that when we are willing, that we will be greeted by that which is greater, whether it's a song, whether it's by somebody smiling at you, somebody praying with you. And then there's times we're a little bit in the dark night of the soul, and we just need to stay with our practices knowing that I am working through something mighty here. So I'd like to close today with 2 quotes, one by Christy Nelson and one by Talia Hunter. Life keeps on extending itself even when we walk past it waiting for a better invitation, something or someone wrapped in different paper or a bigger box. And then from Talia Hunter, do not let the ugliness you see blind you to the beauty that also surrounds you. Not only surrounds you, my friends, but is within you. That is within each one of us. Even when people are struggling, there is the struggle we are seeing, but we are not seeing the depth of their soul and the truth of their being. So let us breathe that in as we prepare to become still. And if it feels right, I invite you to gently close your eyes and begin to focus on your breath. Perhaps placing one hand under your nostrils and one under your heart as you sense the magnificence of life right within your own very being. Breathing in, we are breathing in. We are breathing in the fullness of life. And breathing out, let us breathe out the great fullness of our hearts as we reflect on the gratefulness of life itself. And with each breath, sense the fullness of that breath filling your entire body temple. The light of life is aglow as it flows through each heartbeat, through each breath that you take. Sensing your holy body temple that is doing the very best it can to support you. As we let go of being harsh with our bodies in word, action, or deed, let us tenderly just simply say the words, I love you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for supporting me. And as we drop into our heart space, let us call to mind those things we are receiving without any expectations put on us. A smile, kind gesture, a cool breeze, a warm blanket on a chilly day, the stillness of the moment. And as we enter into the depths of our spiritual hearts, resting in the fullness of the I am that I am that I am, let us search our hearts and soul for where we believe things shouldn't be or just not right. Those things that we judge as bad or wrong. Let them fill your awareness now, picking one of them. As you breathe into it, loving yourself right where you are, knowing that this human journey is challenging. And in that next breath, calling forth that power and presence of love itself, of strength itself, of wisdom of self, that it is deep within you as we connect to the universal creator and presence of life itself. And let the prayer of our hearts be, I am ready, I am willing to see the gift that is offered to me in this situation. Oh, and I know it cannot make sense with my intellectual mind, so let me surrender in an act of mystical surrendering. I let go, I let go, I let go, and I release as I sit in the stillness. Thank you. I give thanks for all the many ways that I am divinely guided, the way Spirit, the I am in me, speaks to me, that which is greater speaks to me. So in this place of surrender, I know the dawning, the awakening has been set in motion. And so I will live from the gratefulness of my heart, even if I am asked to faith it until I make it. And so let us take a deep breath in and out, returning to our breath. Let it be deep, let it be slow. I invite you to rub your hands together. Rub the sides of your legs, and if it feels right, stretch to the side, stretch above, and claim it is so. Breathing in and breathing out. Let us give thanks for life itself, the gift of life. And so it is. Amen. I wish you the blessed rest of your day. I look forward to some fellowship, some treats, some wonderful conversation, and namaste. I behold the light that you are.